Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Alhambra. Alhambra is a 2 to 6 player tile laying city building game. You are in the an Arabian area building this Alhambra that has various different types of tiles on it. Each player will have their own individual city that they are building. There are 3 times during the game where you will score points, and each time they come up, the first 2 come up at random intervals with approximations of where in the deck those happen to be, and you'll see how that works out in the first video. I'll show you where they go. But when they come up, the first scoring round, only the person who has the most of each particular building type will get points. On the second scoring round, whoever has the most and the second most will get points, and there's obviously more points for the most. There's substantially more points for the most, in fact. And then when we get to the third scoring round, which happens when you run out of tiles, so all the tiles have been sent out of the bag, that's when the first, second, and third most of any particular building type will get scored. On top of that, there are these walls that kind of sit around the city and make it a bit harder and more awkward to build some of the tiles in. And for your longest wall, you also get points. So if you have a long wall right from that first scoring round, you're actually going to get substantially more points than everyone else every round. This is a turn-based game that plays 6 players. Now, anything above 4 players tends to start dragging a little bit in my experience. This one, however, I played it with 5 players the other day, and it just went really quickly, because the decision you have, while yes, you're looking, oh, what can I buy, where can I put things, there is a bit of decision there. It's fast enough for it not to be a problem, not to slow the game down and really drag it backwards. In fact, the game felt like it finished a lot quicker than I was expecting it to, with the 5 players. So I don't think that's a drawback on this particular game. I think it's actually a really good thing that this plays up to 6 players. The essence of the game is that there are 4 currency types that come to you in cards, and each of your cards will have a currency color and a number on it. And that tells you I've got 9 gold, for example, or I've got 1 gold. Now, if there's a tile on the board that's worth 10 gold, then I can use those 2 to purchase my tile. And if I've spent exact money, which I just did, I get to go again. If I have, say, a 9 gold and a 6 gold, I can still buy that 10 gold building, but I'm going to have to spend all of it. I don't get any change for that. So the decision on when is it right to grab that tile is a really important one. The other thing to remember is those tiles are going to go onto random currencies. So each tile has a number on it. The currency type is locked into the board. So you've got to make sure you're reading the color of the currency type on the board and the number from the tile in order to know which one you're going to be able to purchase. Then you've got to think, how can I manipulate that with where the walls are? Because the tiles can only go one direction up. North is always north. How can I manipulate that tile into my Alhambra so that the walls don't cut me off, and so that I'm able to place it? Because you have to be able to move through every tile. So you can't just put a random tile up there that no one can actually get to. And you can't put random walls in the middle of things, because walls have to match up to walls, open space to open space. There's a little puzzle that you end up building in your own Alhambra, and the people who tend to do the best on this game are people who are able to manipulate that puzzle to get the walls all the way around the outside and just have a couple of open spots, or 1 open spot, and be able to continually build out from that. Because there are points in the walls. It's only 1 point per spot where that wall goes, but if you've got a super long wall, it can mean uber points for you if you can do it early enough to make it count every single time. The other thing you want to keep your eyes on is what everyone else is building, because if you just take this game at face value, it feels like you're playing multiplayer solitaire, because I'm taking cards from here, I'm playing cards to buy those tiles, I'm putting the tiles in my own thing. That's a solitaire game as far as I'm concerned. But there's a couple of things where we end up interacting. The interactions happen with people getting the tiles before you want them, or taking the money cards before you want them, or before you're able to get them. And that's cool, that's a standard thing. Where the real manipulations come is you need to keep your eyes on what everyone else at the table is building, so that you're not overspending on one particular building type. You actually need to try and stay on top of all of them. In fact, if you can stay one building type, like one more ahead of everyone else at the table on many building types, you're going to score the most points. The way the scoring works is one of the one of the tiles might only be worth, or one of the building types might only be worth 1 point. Each of them is worth 1 extra point, so there's a grading of them. If you go after these ones that are worth 6 points, you can do that. You can keep building them in so no one else can get them. And you might find you have, by the end of the game, 7 of those tiles in your Alhambra. But if you've got 7 of those tiles, you may only have 1 or 2 of the others, which means you're going to score the most points on that particular building type. But all these other building types, everyone else is going to score. So keeping your eye on that, if everyone else only has 1 of that building type, you only need 2 to get the same score out of your Alhambra. And if you can keep your eye on that and be able to manipulate your cards and what you're purchasing to stay just ahead of everyone else, you're probably going to actually do a lot better than just by buying a whole bunch of that one that scores a lot, which I believe is the purple one. You'll see it when it comes through in the video, so please watch out for that. Suddenly, it keeps your head really focused on what everyone else is doing. I've played the game without looking at anyone else's tiles, and I've played the game with just keeping absolute track of them. Now, while you can keep absolute track of them, there's a point where you're just going to have to buy buildings. So, or you'll see the building type come out, and there might only be 1 tile in the red, for example, and no one has any red, and you really want that one, but someone else is very likely to get to it. So there's this whole tension of, oh, am I going to be able to get that quick enough? Do I have enough of the cards to be able to buy it? Or do I have a really high value of card, but that's actually a cheap tile I want to buy, but I'm going to be wasting this number 9 to buy a value 2 card, a value 2 tile. Making those decisions over what is most valuable is really tough with this game, and I think that's the really good thing about this game, that gives you that decision to make every turn of how much to spend on those tiles. Am I willing to waste this extra money on just a little bit? Now, you may have noticed I own the big box. I really love a big box. Queen Games tend to do a whole bunch of them, and I really love them for it, because I tend to buy a game and then at some point I'll be looking and going, oh, I really should get the expansion for that game, and it'll sit there because that expansion might cost the same as another game, and I go, oh, I could just buy a new game for the same amount. With a big box, if I know I'm going to like the game already, I get all the expansions in there. Now, this big box has 5 expansions. Each of the expansions has a couple of modules, 2 or 3 modules. And so there's a lot of extra stuff that you can add to the game if you wish. It's probably actually worthwhile looking into that. There's a few of them that just feel clunky, but a few of them that I don't play without. I have left them out for the videos, for the next videos, so you can just literally see the base game. But there are a couple of the expansions in here that I tend to just automatically put into the game, especially if I'm playing with people who have played before. I'll put in there's expansions that enable you to have a different kind of wildcard currency that can move through, or there's one that adds cards that enable you to switch currencies of cards that you've got, or use green as if they're orange and things like that. They're the ones that I tend to always use. There's other ones in there that are a little bit more, I don't know if they're valuable, but you know, they're fun to play around with. Once again, as with all the other big boxes, I never suggest to actually try and put in everything from a big box, because it weighs the game down and takes forever to set up, forever to pack down, and forever to play, and you tend to just ignore some of the areas anyway. But it's worthwhile having a look at and having a go at and trying out some of the extra elements that exist in there. I hope that these videos give you an idea of Alhambra and help you get it to the table if you're trying to work out the rules. If you've got any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you've got any games that you wish to be Gamesplained, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.